Hello, everyone, and I want to introduce myself. My name is Albert McElhenney, and for those who haven't seen any of my videos before, I am a Christian apologist. And this is a bit of an experiment in that will replace my earlier efforts both on YouTube and in podcasting. I will be making these videos available on my YouTube channel, which is Labyrinth312, on iTunes, and perhaps some other platforms as well, and on my own website, which is labyrinth.net. My focus in terms of Christian apologetics is a bit different from some others you might find on YouTube or iTunes, in that I do not deal so much with things like proofs for the existence of God. Not that I'm criticizing those who do, it just simply isn't my area of focus. Instead, my interest is more in terms of church history and the analysis of historical claims made against the Christian faith. I've found that once you get to the root of such claims, there's often far less there than meets the eye. For example, many anti-Christian polemicists, for use of a better term, sort of the counterpart of the Christian apologists, will cite early Christian authors using quotations that could be taken as damaging to the Christian faith. I have found that once you actually look up these quotations, or attempt to, you find that many of them actually don't appear in that author's extant writings, or if they do, have been taken so completely out of context that the meaning is often 180 degrees different from what's being inferred. What's happened is that someone has written something down, and it's merely been cut and paste from one book or website to another without any concern for whether or not there's a factual basis for the assertion. The attitude seems to be that if it makes Christianity look bad, it must be true. Now, over the last few years, I've had a primary focus even within that within that sort of type of argumentation, and that's been directed at claims that Jesus never existed and was a copy of prior pagan deities. This is the sort of thing one finds in such laughable productions as the film Zeitgeist and books by D.M. Murdoch, also known as Acharya S., and Tom Harper. I tend to call such people on their errors. I have no personal animosity against those authors or Peter Joseph who made Zeitgeist, but they frankly need to be called on the garbage that they're placing out there in the public sphere, and I have little difficulty doing so. If they were to withdraw a certain claim as one made in error, I would acknowledge it, certainly, and commend them for it. But I found that the attitude seems to be more one of digging in their heels. In a lot of ways, it's very reminiscent of some interaction I've had with very hardcore Christian fundamentalists, in particular those of King James Onlyists, who I've also had some battles with in the past. In fact, I've commented in the past that many King James Onlyists and fans of the film Zeitgeist share the same conspiracy theorist methodology, even if their aims are completely different. In reference to this Jesus mythicist pagan parallels topic, I have been writing an ebook series available on Kindle, of which 6 have been completed and 3 more are in the works. I will discuss that series in the future, and material from it will be used as basis for some future videos. However, I will not just be dealing with that particular topic, but also various other things as I see the need. For those who are watching on YouTube, I have disabled the comments on that platform. That doesn't mean I don't want to hear your comments, but simply that two things. One, I prefer to have them in one location, and that one will be my website. Secondly, Google has made such a mess of YouTube that I've just given up even trying to make sense of it anymore. Now, when you go to the website, I will warn you that comments are moderated. I've unfortunately found that certain people seem to be unable to express their opinions without the use of personal attacks against other posters or excessive profanity, and I care not to promote their stupidity on my website. And others seem to think that I should put up with their endless spamming and answer their every question while they answer nothing in reply, and I simply don't play that game and cut them off rather quickly. Thus, as I said, I found the need to moderate comments. There is a comments policy posted on the website, and any intelligent disagreement is encouraged. I don't have a problem with that. I prefer to not feed the trolls. Now, I do fully acknowledge I have a bias, but so does everyone else. The question is whether we acknowledge certain items present legitimate difficulties for our positions. We may share the same evidence, but differ greatly on the presuppositions we bring and hence the interpretations we give to things. In regard to this, I think it is important that when dealing with the arguments of your opponents that you deal with their arguments directly. I have been very critical of people like Diane Murdoch and Earl Doherty, but I've also read their books. For example, I have not until recently been critical or dealt much with Richard Carrier, and for the reason is I hadn't read his books. I had an understanding of what he said, but it was through other people talking about what Richard Carrier said rather than what Richard Carrier said himself. I've now been reading his material and will deal with that also. But I think it's important that when you're confronting a particular author or a particular film that you deal with the source directly rather than taking things secondhand from other people on your own side who may spin things they said to make them look much worse than they actually were. I will only discuss, as I said, the material that I've actually read. Unfortunately, I have come across those on both sides, both the Christian side and those arguing against Christianity, who will make comments on things without doing just what I described, reading the sources they're criticizing directly. In fact, as future videos will demonstrate, some rather prominent Jesus mythicists never read the material they are citing. At least I am assuming they haven't, because their citation of it is so utterly ridiculous that I would assume they only have read a little piece of it and not the entire context of the passage, or they would never have used it. This, which I sometimes refer to as citation by Google book search terms, is quite rampant, and I'll expose some of that in future videos. Unfortunately, it happens among Christians as well, and this saddens me, as those who claim allegiance to He who is the truth should, however fallibly, adhere as much as they can to the truth. Mistakes are inevitable. Everybody makes mistakes, and forgivable. But tactics such as misquoting, intentionally misciting people, or in the case of videos, things like illegitimate DCMA claims, false flagging videos as objectionable content when there really is no objectionable content except for the fact that you object to the conclusions they're reaching. And this is done and a lot of it's been discussed on YouTube with YouTube videos by Christians, drags the name of Christ and His church through the mud. If you have no answer to a particular difficulty, the proper response is not to try to suppress the difficulty with dirty pool, but to shut up and try to learn from someone who can answer that difficulty. There are many topics for which my knowledge could fit on the head of a very small pin. I choose not to discuss those topics. I would suggest others do the same. And with this introduction out of the way, I will begin with specific topics on my next video. In all things, may to God be all the glory, and until next time, God bless.